Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we're checking out the Ibuki. It's in stock form in this game, as we'll see here in a moment. Tago, Azure Lane Commander. Slot 2 perk increases the damage, increases the fire chance dramatically. Also increases the damage you take dramatically. Whoever voiced the giggles or whatever noises the commander makes, apparently got into a spat with like Xi Jinping or something and got herself removed from the game. So we're not going to be able to buy that again here. What's going on with this video here? Looks a little goofy to start here. Hopefully it improves. Yes, okay. Looks like it's improving. But anyway, you won't be able to get the commander anymore. If you don't have that one, I would run Makawa. These higher tier Japanese cruisers have a lot of turret traverse issues, and Ingenious. Slot 1 perk there lets you know if you're being targeted, yes, but also increases the turret traverse quite a bit. So that's helpful there. And Makawa also gives you options for speed and mobility, both of which you're going to need in the Japanese. So I generally recommend Makawa, and still use Makawa about half the time on my Megami, half the time on Ibuki and Atago and those type of ships, whatever I'm in the mood for. But in this game we had a Azure Lane Atago, and we're going to be kind of demonstrating the Japanese cruiser gameplay here. So we're on the sea cap in this map here, and what we need to understand about the ship currently: turret number 2 bugged. You can see all 5 guns should be in position to fire there on the diagram at the bottom, but the second one, the game only thinks it's in firing position when you're basically broadside like we are there. Now you can see the guns available to fire, the second gun there on the diagram. And if we're kiting away, if we're pointing away from the targets, then the turret works properly. So it's kind of like the Nuremberg. When the Nuremberg launched, you couldn't really get the guns on target facing your target. It was also bugged. So it kind of trained you to play the ship, in a rearward facing manner. Same thing with the Ibuki. So if you're still learning how to play the Japanese, I guess that would be a brief blessing, but hopefully that'll be fixed relatively soon. Anyway, we put some zoning torps there. Japanese cruisers tend to have really good long-range torpedoes, and we generally are just going to be throwing them into areas that we want to make dangerous for the enemy to enter, like the sea cap. If there's a destroyer, and there's 1 destroyer per team in this game, happens to be going into sea, well, if he gets clipped with a torpedo, that's kind of lights out for red. They're going to have a hard time winning that game right off the bat. The torpedo launches on these Japanese cruisers generally more favorable rearward again. So everything about the ship offensively is kind of designed to be firing, when you're pointed away from the targets. And that's helpful for your survival as well. If you get hit in these Japanese cruisers, you typically die very quickly, especially if you're running the Atago Commander, where we're increasing the incoming damage. So being ready to get out of there if it gets hot is kind of part of the play style of the line here. So the destroyer is getting radar now. We got a Wichita. Nothing can shoot the destroyer at the moment, though Wichita can, and we got a Brandenburg in the cap as well, who's kind of preventing the Wichita from moving forward. And this is good battleship positioning. Now he's far forward here. He's going to be taking a lot of damage, and I don't know how long he's going to survive. But it illustrates the function of the battleship. It's psychologically menacing. If you come in the area where it's controlling, you're going to get whacked, and you can see the Wichita is taking a lot of damage. We switched to AP. Looking on the map, he's about a 45-degree angle, so we're going to have a hard time doing damage, but I wanted to... I didn't notice he wasn't quite as broadside until we just checked there. Should have been looking better at the map, but nevertheless get a couple salvos off, and the Brandenburg is doing a good job whittling him down. We do knock the gun fine, but that's the point. If the Brandenburg isn't there, the Wichita can move into the cap when the radar is active, blast the destroyer, and win the game that way, right? So battleships that are parked on the moon, you don't have that impact, you don't have that fear factor, and you don't have that control over the area that you need to be controlling, which are the caps. That's how we win the game, by controlling the caps. So I don't know if I'd be that far forward if I'm in the Brandenburg. I mean, it's designed to get as close to the enemy as possible, so it's not a horrible position for him, and he is protected by the island now. But nevertheless, effective play there. Rune coming around here. He's got our destroyer very close range here, and a battleship who's taking a lot of damage, and boom, it gives him a vicious shot with the torpedoes. And that Soyuz over there is in trouble. I don't know if the Soyuz was trying to ram him or what, but That didn't work. Ruin, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the AP after we discharge the load on him there. Splash him there with the golden showers, and then back to the AP because we're hoping he's going to be broadside, and here it is. We'll get a decent shot here. Japanese AP on these cruisers, generally it's not going to be effective. It's not going to be effective long range, but if we're close quarters like we are here, then we can get some pretty decent shots. 2 hits to the Citadel, 7 hits overall, a lot of damage on that Ruin, and he's in trouble now. We're back to the HE since we begins angling, and hopefully we can get him. We got to keep this destroyer alive. He's an important piece to the team's strategy. And he's actually a good destroyer player. He went and got a cap. He's not goofing around trying to launch torpedoes at battleships for 15 minutes. So, valuable guy to keep alive, and luckily we did there. So we're in a decent position. We got B, C, the 2 neutral caps, and we still control our home cap D. So that's 3 times the points generating in our favor. And as long as we can hold on to that, all we got to do is just hold back and kind of chill. We'll try and bomb on these guys, whittle their health down a little bit, but we don't have to be doing anything too crazy. Now, the guys that captured B, they ran through the cap, and now they're going to be attacking A. It's incumbent on Red, those 2 grayed out battleships, they need to be on C right now, okay? You cannot allow cap misbalances or mismatches to develop in the match. Unbalanced point production, that's how you create holes that you cannot get out of. The only way they can win after a while is if they kill every ship. And killing every ship is a lot harder than winning on points. So, once again, those guys, they're afraid of the destroyer, sure, but 2 battleships that they move in simultaneously should be able to handle the destroyer without really any issue, especially if they catch them close quarters. But strategy dictates sometimes you have to make plays you don't want to make, okay? I don't care if you don't like getting torped as a battleship. Conceding the game is worse. I mean, we're playing the game to win, right? So, got to do what you got to do sometimes. We're getting shot from the north. I think it's a Friedrich de Grobe up there, or some sort of German battleship. And then the Bismarck until he went down, but he's got another Bismarck there behind him. So, got to increase the distance. Now, being stock here, the guns are 10% less in terms of how far they can reach, so our control over the map is diminished in this game. Ooh, vicious shot there. Luckily, we only took 1 or 2 shells out of that group. Could have been a dev strike if we were a little bit less careful, but trying to get away here. We don't want to have all these ships be able to shoot us, and I want to use these island covers. You've noticed we've been kind of trying to be behind islands and firing unspotted as much as possible. If we're spotted, then we would need to be on the move and moving away from the enemy. But the shorter range on the guns until we get that mod upgrade, and that's typically my last mod, is the range boost for the ships. I think the hull is obviously the most important, and then usually whatever else in terms of engine boosts or torpedo upgrades usually are more valuable than the just the extra range. But it is noticeable here. But nevertheless, we are unspotted again. And now all 3 battleships are moving into C, and our forces are moving into their home cap. So they're late to the party here. They do get the destroyer, which is clutch. They do still have their destroyer on their team. Is he capping bases and scoring points for the team? I don't know what he's doing. Probably not. But nevertheless, him being alive is critical because they need to change the cap situation very quickly. Yeah, sure, they're getting C. We're going to go ahead and try and slow that down. Sure, we'll get a little bit of damage on the Friedrich here, but those resets are the more important part of this play. And basically, most of my fleet is all grouped up, and then clearly the 3 ships that we know about are going to be doing America's favorite pastime, I want to hold your hand, and experiencing infinite health. So these guys aren't going to be sunk, but as long as they're stacked on top of each other, the imposing physical threat that the battleships pose doesn't exist, right? We were very nervous when these ships to the north of C and the ones in the middle were both targeting us, because then we got shots coming at 90-degree angles or close to 90-degree angles, and then we can't angle our ships, all right? One side or the other is going to be flat to the enemy, and that's when we're going to get blown up. Torps look pretty good. Do they have the range? No, just at the last minute. Bismarck was attempting to let his crew off. He was getting spotted by the plane here. I got a bit of a unfortune here where we, just as we were about to shoot, we lost sight of him because the plane came behind us again, and then now that he's visible, we missed, and then once again we're forced to blind fire. Not forced, I should have just been a little bit more patient, waited till he got spotted again, but luckily that was a little bit better of a so-called blind fire shot. We did get him there. We of course can't kill him because he's got the fuel lines in the water, but that's fine. We're just going to keep them busy, keep them occupied, and let that score continue to increase. You can see we've nearly doubled their score now at this point in time, which is problematic. because they are forced to kill all of us, and I can single-handedly prevent that, right? If things are getting, as long as they don't blow me up here, if they want to be targeting me, and I am a squishier ship than the battleships that they're probably fighting. But if they don't kill me here, and I'm going to try my best to not be killed, then let's say they start sinking some ships, I can just sail off and we'll win on score. So digging the hole, ignoring the caps, being too passive, being too scared, win rates plummet. All right, so there's just no point to do it. Stacking battleships, even though they become invincible, doesn't win you games. It gets you, a lot of games survived, battles survived, but that stat is not very relevant in my opinion, so I would rather go for the win than the battle survived championship. So anyway, that's kind of the life of the Japanese cruiser. Now, once this hull is upgraded, the mobility, the ability to get those steering gears in action, that's going to go way up, and it's going to make the ship even harder to take out, and I think it'll be a lot better with the hull upgrade. Of course, we get a nice HP boost as well. Torpedoes, I think there's speed, damage, potentially even range, reload, whatever it is. Those are going to get nicer, and you got 2 sets of launchers per side, so we can get a lot of fish in the water with the ship here and make those waters that we're trying to protect, usually in the caps, of course, that much more dangerous for the enemy to enter. Okay, and then the other good thing about having the torps rearward is if we're being chased by battleships, we can just keep launching torps off of both sides, and sometimes we get lucky and hit them. We're going to be lighting fires with the ship. You can stack a fire in a flood and they're in trouble. So that's a look at the stock Ibuki for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and if you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below, and we'll see you all later. Peace.